Here we go. It is day 3, the last day of this week, and I have a lovely guest for this workout. My girlfriend, Michaela. This is gonna be fun. So it's a full body workout. All the exercises are different than the previous 2 days, but we first have to start with our warm-up and mobility. It's very important to make sure we're performing these exercises correctly, and after that, it is go time. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. So the first exercise on the list for today's workout is gonna be the pin squats. Now, they're not that well known, so trying them out for the first time could be a little uncomfortable, but there's a few things you keep in mind to make sure you're performing them correctly, and one is gonna be the pin placement. Now, this is the pin squat, so you wanna make sure you're setting the pins at the proper height. Now, if you do it too low, it's gonna be hard to get into the proper positioning of your lowest squat or even lower. So you want to make sure to start a little higher so that way you get used to the exercise. But the whole point of the pin squat is to make sure you're gaining strength in a certain range of motion here, and the range of motion is going to be from the bottom position to the top. Now with the squat, getting down in the hole, as they say, bring yourself all the way down to the bottom position, it's sometimes difficult to get out of that, especially with heavy weight. So something like the pin squat is used to make sure that you're gaining strength within that bottom position, to make sure you have the power and the strength to push and accelerate yourself up to the top position. Now, as you can see, we have the warm-up weight set up on the bar here, and to get into the proper position, it's a lot easier to have weight on there, so that way when you get under here, you have something to kind of anchor yourself up to. If it was just the bar would want to like just push straight up. So now I can kind of put a little pressure on the bar, push up slightly, tighten everything up, get in the proper squat position, and from this point, this is the starting point, and you're just gonna be pressing straight up, nice explosively, a lot of strength, and then slowly let it down, touch, and then explosively power yourself up to the top position again. And that is the pin squat. Now, we talked about this is a starting position. As you can see, my hip crease is slightly above my knee. You can go a little bit higher, you can go a little bit lower. That's gonna depend on not only your mobility, your flexibility, but also kind of the area you wanna work on in your squat, whatever your weakest point is. Oh, that's it. That was the 3rd set, so it's time to move on to the next exercise. Onto some rack pulls, and as you can tell, we're using the rack, much as the name explains, but a lot like the pin squat, this is you'll be able to dictate how far you want your range of motion. You want it below your knee, above your knee, but in this case, we're gonna go a little bit shorter range of motions. It is above knee, so it's really working on a lot of the pulling mechanism, not a lot in the legs, not a lot of push from the legs, but you're still gonna feel some tension in your hamstrings and your glutes, but you are getting that through the hip extension there, but you're really also getting your lats and your upper back area with your traps, supporting this weight and really retracting your shoulders back at that top position. The good thing about the rack pulls in this is when you kind of bring it in that full extension, you really try to pull your shoulders back, and you can push yourself against your bar, push your hips against the bar, and get even more contraction through kind of that lower back section, and also the upper back as well, by retracting your shoulder blades back. So this is definitely a favorite of ours. And the cool thing about this one is too, since it's a bit of a shorter range of motion, go really heavy with it, so it just kind of makes you feel good, right? You put a lot of weight on it, you bust them out, you get kind of that really like strong feeling of pulling a lot of weight, but you also just kind of look cool too. But you know, much like any exercise, you don't want to show off, you don't want to ego lift, but we're gonna be going as heavy as we can on these. And the thing is, you'll notice too, is what's gonna fail first is not your ego, but your grip. Your grip's gonna fail, so you're probably gonna wanna grab some straps when you go really heavy, but other than that, it's gonna feel good. It's pretty easy exercise. Again, slight extension of the knees, slight extension of the hips, kind of squeeze those shoulders back to the top position, and then slowly glide it down your legs to the bottom position so it hits the rack, and then ready to go again.
That was heavy. I think I need my wrist straps for that. My grip was failing a little bit, but yeah. I'm ready for the next one.
Yeah, they've seen some use. I've seen some people have like straps that only have a few threads left. I'm like, I don't know if they're just like to live life on the edge, but it's also, you have an attachment to your straps, your workout gear in general, either your belt, your straps, whatever it is. You kind of get used to them, and they've seen a lot of lifting, they've seen a lot of miles, which feels pretty cool. So these puppies have been with me for a while, and as you can tell, I've kind of taken pretty good care. I don't use them a lot. I try not to. So they've been in our family for a while, at least my family, which is just me. feeling good. A lot of lower back, a lot of traps. You know, your lats will feel it, just do the slight protraction, retraction of your shoulders, but man, you just gotta be careful with these, because if you're lifting really heavy, you kind of bring it up and you try to overextend, you bring it up and you really try to do this, you can really be not good for your lower back. A little pinch in there, possibly herniated disc, so you just gotta be careful when you're extending, not to overextend, pulling back really far. Kind of want to do it, and that's why I do like having the bar there, because you can kind of press yourself up against it. It's kind of a stopping point there, and really try to squeeze those lats back, but feels pretty good. We might go up a little bit, but I think Michaela has me beat. I think she went heavier than me.
Holy shit. That was heavy.
Doing a little warm up on the incline bench press, and we love incline. It's really trying to target the clavicular portion of your chest, the upper portion of your chest. And it's pretty simple. You just bring it down, feel a nice stretch, and bring it back to the top position. But we're gonna go a little heavier with this, and it's already a little bit more difficult because it's targeting those kind of smaller fibers in the upper chest there. Not as much activation is going to be helping out is in comparison to, like, let's say the flat bench press. So the incline is always typically a bit harder, but we're still gonna push as hard as we can, baby. That's what it's all about. Michaela, are you with me?
Yes.
Hell yeah. Much like any pressing motion, specifically bench press, working the chest, or track your scapula, you're gonna feel a hell of a lot more stable. And there's no different with the incline press.
Whew. It's funny because I'm usually able to bust out about like 10 reps with this weight, and right now I'm only doing about 5. And it can be a little discouraging when this happens, but it's good to just keep pushing and make sure that you're taking notes on your weight, because it's not going to be perfect every week. You're not going to always live up to the expectations that you have for yourself. It's not going to be linear, your progression, so it's just important to keep pushing and realize that your strength isn't always going to be perfect or what you expect it to be.
So the next exercise and the last compound for this workout is going to be the pin shoulder press. Now this is very similar to the pin squat in the sense that where you put the pins is going to be controlling or dictating what area you're trying to work on as far as strength goes. So you can start with the pins very low to get the full range of motion, or you can raise the pins to have a shorter range of motion, but you're going to be working in that shorter range of motion trying to gain strength within that area there. So if you're having problems with a typical or standard overhead press, a sticking point, let's say you go from here to ear fine, but the midway point you're struggling to really get that weight up with heavier weight, then with the pin press you can set the pins a bit higher, so you start in that medium kind of zone, that mid zone, that way you're working on the strength in that area. So these ones are very beneficial for really hitting those weak points, and that's why we've included them. And so we're going to be busting these out and feeling damn good, but I think we're going to be doing more of a full range of motion on this. I typically have kind of a hard time kind of getting the weight up in the beginning phase of a shoulder press, just to kind of start lifting it from here. So we're going to go a little above the lowest part of a shoulder press, kind of start a few inches higher, and then be working in that range of motion. And I think it's going to feel pretty damn good. So let's do it. This is one thing to be thankful for, of having a beer whenever you're doing some kind of like pressing here. You know, when the bar's getting close enough to your chin, it's like cat whiskers, you feel it coming, so you're less likely to hit the bottom of your chin. So thank you, beard. You have multi-purposes for the beard. It looks cool, but also is very functional too. You know, it's really interesting about shoulders. Obviously, you try to focus on them through exercises like the pin press, or maybe a whole shoulder day or whatever it is, but shoulders are really utilized in almost every movement. I mean, back day they're utilized, chest day, you're working your biceps, your arms, obviously the bicipital groove, the bicep tendon goes into the shoulder joint itself. So a lot of muscles are connecting to the shoulder joint, but they're also being utilized in a lot of movements. So you have to be cautious of that, and that's one thing to remember, is that the shoulders are worked so much, you want to make sure they're healthy, they're strong, they're making, you know, they have the proper strength to support that shoulder joint, so that way it never gets pulled in a precarious position. But you know, with the shoulder joint in a 360 degree movement, it's able to move very freely, but unfortunately, since it's a ball and socket joint, you know, you really have to make sure that those muscles are there to keep it nice and tight and secure, especially when performing really heavy movements. So that's why shoulder health is so important, and that's why you want to make sure you strengthen those muscles that support and surround the shoulder joint itself, so that way you're always making sure that you're injury free. Oh yeah, that was it. That was the last set of the pin shoulder press, and now we're moving on to the 2 last exercises. One's going to be the farmer walks, and after the farmer walks we're going to be doing the leg raises for the abs, and that's it. And day 3's done, but it's not quite it yet, so we're going to go outside, hit some farmer walks. Now, farmer walks in some ways are very similar to farmer holds, because you're grabbing a heavy set of dumbbells and you're squeezing it with your grip as tight as you can. You're going to slightly elevate your shoulders to really contract your trapezius muscles. But in this case, you're going to be walking forward, and we're going to be walking for 20 yards before we stop and rest until our next set. So of course we have the holding, a lot of forearm work. You have the traps to help shrug the shoulders up a little bit to stabilize the movement, and of course now we're introducing the walk as well, so you do get that lower body and the core to stabilize the weight while you're walking. So we're gonna grasp a pretty heavy set of dumbbells and get walking. And as you can see, you don't want to walk too fast, but you don't want to walk too slow either. You want to get a nice mild pace, so that way you can really feel the exercise and really feel very stable while you're walking as well. So steady, stable and steady, that's what we want for sure. So the farmer walks, baby, hell yeah. You want to be a farmer? Here's a couple acres. And my acres are actually my forearms, because they're burning quite a bit in this exercise.
Yeah, they make me feel like a badass farmer woman.
What are you farming? She's farming gains.
Yeah, I'm farming the gains. I was actually in a really good habit of doing these like every other day, and I was getting up to like 15 reps per set, doing like 4 sets, but now I can only do about 10 per set. But it's definitely something you just have to work up to. Taking it week by week, or however many times you do abs.
Michaela brings up a good point. Sometimes it's difficult when doing bodyweight exercises like this. You really can't control the weight, so you're pretty much at the mercy of your own body weight. At least in this case, your lower body weight. And that's why you can just kind of adjust the reps accordingly to your strength. So if you can't get 15 reps, don't worry about it. Just mark down the amount of reps you can get, so that way as you progress through the program, you'll be able to see your strength gauge in your abdominal, and then looking back after the program is done, you'll be able to bust out 20 repetitions instead of just 10 maybe that you started with. So even if it's just body weight, you're still pushing yourself and gaining strength. And instead of increasing the amount of weight, you're increasing the amount of reps as you get stronger. So it can still be very motivating in that way, and you just have to keep it up. Just want to say a huge thank you to Michaela for joining me for the workout. She did an awesome job. And you're strong. That was very motivating working out with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Looking forward to working out with you more in the future. So, thanks for tuning in for this episode. Looking forward to you on to the next one. And as always, stay well.
I made it. I survived. Thank you, God of Gains, Brandon.
Oh, I'm the God of gains now.
He blessed me.